Welcome to the Midwest Nowhere podcast. My name is Scott Thompson. I am your host. Thank you again for joining us today. We're going to be talking about this fantastic Thrice record, To Be Everywhere is to Be Nowhere. And it's been a lot of fun digging into this one over the last couple of weeks, finding some more things out about it that I didn't know before, even though I've enjoyed it since they toured it when it first came out. It's going to be a fun record to get into. Starting off, we're going to get into what I've been up to as far as anything Midwest Nowhere is concerned, anything Swenoda related. From last week, all of the music's back up on all of the streaming platforms. Started building the Linktrees. They're scattered around all the different social networks and stuff like that now. So things are visible again, which is good. And we're legal as an LLC with the state of Minnesota. Again, I reinstated that, so that's good. I don't think I added any merch, but I ordered a couple of samples from the Midwest Nowhere store, just a pint glass and a coffee mug. So I'm waiting for those to show up so I can show them to you guys and we can do some nice advertising and, help the little side project pull some money in. We've spent somewhere in the ballpark of $250 to get everything rolling, which is nice to have a number so that we know, like, when we first kind of launched it, we just threw a bunch of money into it and didn't pay too much attention and have much of a plan as far as trying to recover it. But now I feel like I've got tangible numbers that I can kind of look at and say, okay, if we need to try and pull this much this year just so that the thing feeds itself, how would we do that? And so there's a lot more clarity and a lot more of a game plan as far as trying to help make that happen this year. So, yeah, that's been pretty much it for the Midwest Nowhere side of things. I did launch another t-shirt too, as far as, that's right, for Midwest Nowhere, because we're operating through Teespring, which is the same print-to-order merch site that Swenoda is using. And I thought, since we talked about the Robin Hood Hills last week, that was kind of the first thing that everybody was gravitating towards when the music went back online. Why not make a Robin Hood Hills shirt just to have up there? And so it's got the small head logo in the middle of the chest, the one that Jake drew years ago when we first started that band. And I thought it would be, just listening to that Trianology EP, the whole thing ends with, like, I don't even know how long it is, if it's 7 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is, of just the I will never speak of this again, just over and over again. And it's almost like a trance by the time you're done with it. It was always really intense to play, and even now just listening to it, like, there's definitely things about the production I would like to fix, but we captured it pretty well for what we had to work with at the time and for the headspace everybody was in. So I thought it'd be pretty powerful to have a Robin Hood Hills t-shirt that has that line on the back of it. So threw it together, put it up on the Teespring. It's there if you look at the merch store on our Linktree. On the Swenoda side of things, it's quite an adventure this week. Last week we didn't get together. Was that just the week? That must have just been the week after Tyler had surgery. Yeah, so he's still home recovering, doing well, but it's kind of steady as she goes, kind of slow and steady as she goes. If you haven't caught any of the previous episodes, he had brain surgery on the 6th of this month, and his GoFundMe is still up on all the social media accounts. It's still pinned. It'll be in the description of this video as well. It's going to be live as long as he has the need, and if you have the availability to, please do throw into that. Guy's been out of work for a while and will be out of work, and so anything helps. And so last week we didn't get together, but this week, Monday came around. Benno had touched base with Tyler and said that he wasn't feeling quite ready to, come out and hang on a Monday night, which is our usual rehearsal night out in Grove City. But Benno said he would still make it. I said I could still make it. So we thought the three of us, just me, him, and Jake, would get together, get some guitars out, just catch up. Kaylin's been baking bread like a, mad woman, so she loaded up some sourdough for those guys and was going to drop that off. And it was crazy. Like, I got to Holiday in Benson, and my 1995 Ford Taurus station wagon, call it Esmeralda, she broke a belt in the parking lot at Holiday. I was like about to pull out into traffic, and it just started smoking, and I wasn't quite sure what to do, but I hit the gas trying to think that I could get out and like just pull it back in to park on the other side or something, and it died. So I kind of panicked and started it, and it would start fine. So then I threw it in reverse, and I hit the gas, and there was nobody behind me. I was good. I was able to pull it into a spot real quick and shut it off. I opened the hood up, and I just saw the broken belt. It was like, okay. So got a tow, got it over to Wallace's in Benson, and I figured I wasn't going to be able to make it, but my wife calls me. She's like, hey, I can see if your folks can pick up the teenager from gun safety class if you want to just take the van and still go. I was like, heck yeah, like, that's awesome. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to do it. Yeah, let's make that happen. So I was still able to make it. Benno got tied up with work. He got stuck. He was picking up a delivery for work, and then it ran late and just got busy, and it just didn't work for him to come. But, even just for me and Jake to get together and catch up, and for me to, touch base with his family and check on everybody and bring them some bread and goodwill is always a good idea. And it's nice to sit and talk records with Jake and, just catch up about our families and work and everything, and telling them about, there's different stuff going on. We played a new song that he's throwing together, really nice kind of melancholy tune, some really interesting chord choice. There's just like a lot of different ways that you can play certain chords, and he's got some interesting approaches to some certain chords in this new one. It's got a really interesting atmosphere to it that I really dug, and there's an acoustic bass there, so we just played acoustic. And I told him, it's worthwhile to rip through the first half of the LP that we have planned for what we're going to be recording when we're back healthy and everything. So we played through the first half of that, and that was the first time that I've touched those songs since December. I haven't been playing them alone or anything. I've listened to the demos a handful of times. We got this great disc that, Anthony Hans helped us put together, but I haven't grabbed a guitar and tried to play along with it at all. And so it was nice to do that, especially acoustically, just the raw elements, none of my pedals and the synth and all that sort of stuff, but just kind of like really focusing on the notes and listening. And I actually came up with a couple. That's the thing where I say, like, the painting's never done. It's like I heard some things that I was like, well, I haven't been doing this during that part, but just this little bit could really add a lot. And so there's still ideas out there. And Benno threw a track at us this last 2 weeks as well. There was a file that he sent over for our song Between the Moon, and he's been really trying to work on these lead guitar parts and just kind of finding a place to sit in a lot of these tracks. And he had a riff during the intro of Between the Moon that he tried to throw it in during the chorus too, and it sounded like there was parts of that were working. So he sent that, and I had some ideas after listening to that too, and I kind of told Jake, I just said, even just working out those riffs in the meantime while, we're getting ready and giving Tyler the time he needs, it's like, that's a reason enough to get together as far as I'm concerned. So hopefully we'll be getting together again this Monday night. And there's a new Swenoda shirt, a zip-up hoodie that I put up on that merch store. If you go to any of the social media sites for Swenoda, it should be the top thing on there, and if anything, it's in our Linktree that's being used as our main website, and you can see the merch stores on there. It's a gray hoodie that has the Swenoda kind of Nordic font on the front, small on the one side, And on the back, I put a picture of us in black and white on there. We haven't tried putting anything personal like that on any of the merch that we've played with. But I was personally just looking around because I'm realizing that I am an extra large. I thought, and I bet you could ask anybody this, I have thought I was a large probably since ninth grade. And I might have been then, but by 10th grade, I definitely wasn't. My shirts have always been just slightly one size too small. And my wife has burned it into my head. You're an extra large, Scott. This is like not about your stomach, not about anything. You're an extra large. It's just your build. Okay, you're 6 feet tall. You're an XL. Okay. But I hate wearing these shirts that are like bed sheets where they're so big. And I always think of extra large as being that big, but it's really not on me anyhow. And I've had to retire a couple of my zip ups. And it's kind of sad because like I had this great Outwater Music one that I got when they were touring Caution. And I have this one that we got on vacation. We went to Cactus Records in Montana. Awesome zip up, got me through the trip. But I'm looking at this t-shirt I'm wearing, and I was looking at the Cactus Records zip up, and it's like 3 inches. The shirt's hanging underneath it. I'm just like, God, you look like a slob. It's like you need an XL, man. So I'm like thinking, well, who's got a zip up out there these days that, you know, I could get or whatever just to not have something plain necessarily. I mean, I could, but, you know, I like throwing money in people's tills and stuff like that, just as far as like bands and labels and local businesses and whatever. Like, I like to support everybody a little bit, and, you know, so I'll go and look for a zip up if I need one. And just kind of out of curiosity, I was like, I really pumped a lot of stuff into the Swenoda merch store when we first launched it, and I couldn't remember if I put any zip-ups on there, and there was 2, and I just don't like them. There wasn't enough there for me to be like, yeah, that would work or whatever. And then I realized, I'm like, you run this merch store, like you should probably put something in there that you would wear, right? That's kind of like merchandising 101 that I never took. But I'm learning the hard way. So I was thinking about what I would want to see in a Swenoda shirt, and I was like, yeah, that'd be really cool to have a picture of us on it and something simple and small on the front. So yeah, it's up there. And that all that money that comes in from the Swenoda merch sales goes right into our little box that we've saved. It's how we're making this record. It's how we're going to pay for the rest of what we need for mixing and mastering and manufacturing. So tracking is paid. We've already put our deposit down. We've already saved enough to pay for the rest of tracking, assuming that we get it done in the 4 days that we booked at Pachyderm. Mixing really depends. Mastering has been a debate as far as who's going to master it, but we are talking about a digital and a vinyl master so that they have equal time and respect and turn out as good as they can. And obviously, manufacturing vinyl has been the kind of end goal since day one. And it certainly comes with its price tag as well. But we want to make a nice package. So know that if you do throw into that merch store, it's for Swenoda, that's where it all goes, is straight into the box, which goes into everything else that we are trying to accomplish. Oh, I should mention too, speaking of manufacturing, Jake and I had a little chat and he was on board. I have yet to talk to Benno and Tyler about it, but I have gotten way deep into cassettes. I got Sam I Am's Astray on cassette a couple weeks ago. I can't remember if that showed up by the time I had the last episode, but I can tell you since then I've listened to it. And before my station wagon broke down, because that thing's got a tape deck, it sounded awesome. And so I really just like want to have a case that's like, you know, like a case like that size right there. It's mostly full of country tapes, but I want to fill it up with like bands that I'm into, so that when I give somebody a ride in it, they feel like they're in a time machine. But then when I show them the cassette stack I've got, it's Sam I Am, Hot Water Music, Alkaline Trio, like all this stuff. And it's like, what? How do you have all this stuff on cassette? No, it's just, I don't know. For me, it's kind of a gimmicky thing, but it's also the novelty of it's fantastic. And so I'd mentioned to the guys a while ago, I said, when it comes to cassettes, I'm seeing that a lot of bands will put their demo versions on cassette, and they won't make very many of them, but it becomes like this kind of collector's hunt type of thing. And we have this demo version of the record that Anthony put together for us, and that we spent a whole weekend tracking. We spent months mixing and overdubbing and mastering and finishing. And I mean, it sounds good. I'm sure the record will be better, but it's a good version of it. And I just think that how fun would it be, like 6 months after the official record is totally out, say it's like 6 months down from that release date, we drop 100 copies of the demos on cassette, never going online, never going on Spotify, nothing at all, just a cassette. We talked about a gold cassette, kind of like so it would look like the Zelda NES cartridges or the Majora's Mask cartridge from the 64, like that color gold. Because I found the website who makes them, and they're not terribly expensive, and you don't have to charge a lot for them. So Jake said he was in, and so I like to think that's enough. That will mean that it'll happen, because I don't know why. I just got this fascination with them. I think cassettes are cool. I'm into it. I'm about sick to death of everything being available at my fingertips at all times. And there's something about a physical book. There's obviously, I have a love for vinyl, but even just when I'm traveling, like to have a box of cassettes and a reliable tape deck that works in my car is like, I don't know. There's something about that just, it's simple enough. It makes me happy. And I dig the cassette thing. And I found out that there is a market for cassettes as well. Not like the US has this huge cult cassette following, but around the world, specifically in Indonesia, I was looking at bands like the ones I mentioned, Coheed and Cambria, the Alkaline Trio, even Thrice, stuff like that. There's cassette versions of a lot of these records out. War All the Time by Thursday that we just talked about, I totally found a cassette version of it. But it says unofficial, and I'm like, it's listed on Discogs, but it says it's an unofficial release. What's this all about? Apparently, there are small companies that are making it their business to, one way or another, make cassette versions of a lot of post-hardcore, emo, indie, and alternative rock in Indonesia. And it's because they're cheap to make, and the people there don't have a ton of money, but they love this music. And so I saw in there that if I were to order one of them, a lot of them would come from Indonesia. They're still like $6, $7, $8, and the shipping's like $9, right? Because it's coming halfway across the world. But you better believe I'm ready to get my hands on some Indonesian Thursday cassettes to fill this little box that I'm going to fill. It's going to be awesome. So knowing that that's a thing too kind of makes me think, well, if we do press it, and if we do, we only have 100 copies of it, that's special enough. And then if we know who to advertise it to, I'd like to think that we'd be able to get rid of them as well. So that's my spiel on cassettes and all the Swenoda stuff, my crazy trip to Grove City. The only other thing I think worth mentioning, Midwest Nowhere wise, is that, when we started this as a company, the idea was very much that it was going to be me and Kaylin doing things together or individually, but sharing like the stuff that we do. Some of it was going to be stuff we sell, but then some of it was just like wanting to have an avenue to share our projects, because we definitely have that thing in our house where we get real excited about one thing for like 6 months, and then we never talk about it again, and we just shift gears and get into something else. Which for me has been like Zelda, and for her has been sourdough bread lately. And on the YouTube channel, on the Rumble channel, I uploaded a video of Kaylin making sourdough bread. It's basically like a day in the life of a sourdough bread maker. She got real deep into the project. I kind of started it, and then she saw that I was making all these mistakes, and she's like, I'm going to go ahead and try doing it right. And she figured it out, and her results are awesome. And when I had shared this bread with the guys out in Grove City, Jake's wife got in touch with Kaylin and was like, how do you do this? And it's such a complicated project. She says, well, I'll make you a video, try and explain it a little bit. So the next day came and she's going to try and make this video. And I was like, you're not just going to prop your phone up and just talk to her and you know what I mean? Like, we got a tripod. I've got a microphone now. I'm like, let's make it nice so she can actually like see what you're doing and everything like that. So, of course, one video with a cell phone propped up turned into like an entire day project of filming videos, and then the next day me editing it down, trying to make sense of it, and 40 minutes of material. When it's all finished, it's like this pretty hilarious kind of, like I said, a day in the life of a sourdough bread maker. And one, if you're into learning about stuff like that, it's for you. Two, if you have ever been curious about it and just not really known where to start, this is like sourdough bread for dummies. It's just like, make it as simple as possible and don't over-explain stuff that doesn't need to be over-explained and making things all mathematical and scientific. It's just like, what do I do to make the thing taste really good? That's kind of what she, like, that was kind of her method. And it's also for you if you just like watching people, like just goofy people doing stuff, because she's pretty hilarious throughout the whole thing. I accused her of having Tourette's a few times, and I had to put in a language warning on the video because she cusses like a sailor, but God, she makes good bread. So what do you do? I think I said on the YouTube channel, on the Rumble channel, check out Kaylin's Kitchen. I called it episode 1 sourdough. I hope she'll make more. I don't know what else she would make. We did mess with some noodles last week. That's a project if you've never tried to do it. I tell you what, noodles from scratch without any tools, just a rolling pin and some flour and water and egg. It's tricky, but don't be surprised if something like that comes up, or who knows. Moving on, we'll go ahead and get into our focus of the night. Thrice's To Be Everywhere is to Be Nowhere. For those who don't know, Thrice is an American rock band from Irvine, California, known for their blend of post-hardcore, alternative rock, and experimental elements. They formed in 1998 by vocalist guitarist Dustin Crenshaw and the guitarist Tepe Teranishi. I looked this up too, how to pronounce his name. Tepe Teranishi. It's Japanese. Figured that out. I never knew that he was Japanese, but the first and last name are Japanese, so Tepe is Japanese. The band gained popularity with their energetic early albums like The Illusion of Safety and The Artist in the Ambulance, which featured a mix of aggressive riffs and introspective lyrics. Over time, Thrice evolved their sound, incorporating atmospheric and progressive elements in albums like Visu, that came out in 2005, and the ambitious Alchemy Index from 2007 and 2008, where they explored different sonic themes tied to the 4 classical elements: air, water, fire, and earth. Each EP has 6 songs. Each one is supposed to sonically represent the elements. It's magical and it's wonderful if you've never listened to it. I tried to find the vinyl box set of it. I'm not willing to take out a loan, but someday I might have to, because the packaging looks beautiful too. After a brief hiatus from 2012 to 2015, they returned with a more mature and refined sound, including To Be Everywhere is to Be Nowhere and 2021's Horizons East. Lyrically, Thrice has delved into philosophy, spirituality, and social themes, with Crenshaw's poetic and thought-provoking writing style standing out. While they have roots in punk and hardcore, their ability to experiment and evolve has earned them a dedicated fan base across multiple genres. To Be Everywhere is to Be Nowhere is their 9th studio album. It was released in 2016. The phrase itself is an old proverb attributed to the Roman philosopher Seneca, suggesting that if one tries to be present in too many places at once, they end up truly not being present anywhere at all. We're going to talk about stoicism, something that I studied all of last year, and a book that I recently gave Jake when I found an extra copy of it. The Daily Stoic was a book that a coworker gave me, and it's like a one page a day reader, but at the same time I also it wasn't ego is the obstacle, or it wasn't the obstacle is the way. It was discipline is destiny. Read that one as well. And so I've studied Stoicism quite a bit, and it never clicked that that's where this title came from. The title always was kind of an enigma to me, and to realize that it was a Seneca quote. It's like, okay, so these guys are readers. They used to have on their website a reading list. I don't know if they still do or not, but I remember back in the day, these guys and Thursday, they both used to have reading lists on their website of just stuff they were reading when they were on tour or whatever, and I always thought that was really cool. So this album marked Thrice's return after a 4-year hiatus and showcased a heavier, more politically and socially charged sound. It features tracks like Black Honey, which explores themes of greed and consequence, and Blood on the Sand, a critique of the societal apathy towards violence and injustice. Overall, the album reflects on modern distractions, the overwhelming nature of information in the digital age, and the struggle to find meaning and focus in a chaotic world. So, yeah, and Thrice has always been deeper. I think that lyrically, there's always been a lot to take from what Dustin's written, and what made this record stand out to me was I spent a lot of time with it at a pretty critical point for me. I picked this up at the show on the tour that I went to. I got a free ticket to it. I had been in Benson, and old guitar player, real good friend from growing up, Bruce Regan, he called me up and just said that he ended up with an extra ticket to Thrice, Law Dispute, and Nothing Nowhere. And it was, a couple days away or something like that, and asked me if I wanted to come down and I didn't have to work. I was good to go. I just said yes, and I went. And I didn't even know that Thrice had a new record out. I was very out of just about everything. I was at a point where I was in a pretty dark hole, and I was pretty much just focused on myself and just kind of like not really taking very good care of myself, and just kind of like depressed, like genuinely really depressed. And that I needed to get out of town. I needed to get to a show. It'd been too long. I needed to see Bruce. It'd been too long. I mean, there was a lot of things. It was just a great opportunity to kind of shake myself up a little bit. And so I bought this at the show just to study it more, because I knew it's Thrice. I was so familiar with their early material. And but after The Artist in the Ambulance, I kind of fell off. I kind of was aware of some of the singles that came out after that, but I didn't study them deeply. This gave me a reason to. And after the show, I remember having this record just on a lot. I just let it play a lot. And I would find myself with the lyric book a lot, like I was when I was younger, when I was growing up, with a lot of those records. And there was a lot more simplicity in the lyrics, but I had gotten to that point where I could understand like layers and metaphors, and just being able to like pull something out for yourself out of something simple. And this record does that a lot more. It's not as autobiographical on its face. It's much more, the lyrical content was much more open to your interpretation, but still containing a lot of deep truths that you could resonate with, for sure. So I've got 10 fun things to know about this record in particular. This was considered a comeback album. This was Thrice's first album after their 4-year hiatus, and the band reunited with a fresh perspective and more politically charged direction. Thrice went on this hiatus particularly because Dustin wanted to focus on his family. And at the time, he had young children, and he wanted to step back from a demanding lifestyle and touring and recording. The band had been active for over a decade, and the break allowed them all to recharge personally and creatively. So I asked, what did they do during the hiatus? And Dustin, he did pursue a solo career and worked as a worship pastor at Mars Hill Church, though he later distanced himself from the church due to controversies. Tepe focused on family, and he has a leather goods business, evidently. Riley Breckenridge, which, the drummer and the bass player are brothers. Riley Breckenridge played in a side project called Puke Destroyer, a baseball-themed grindcore band. Can't blame you. But then Eddie, the bass player, he joined Angels and Airwaves for a brief time. By 2015, they felt the time was right to reunite, leading to the creation of To Be Everywhere is to Be Nowhere in 2016. The break ultimately gave them a fresh perspective and a renewed energy for their music. I should say, too, about their lineup. This is one of those bands that all four guys have been those four guys since day one. Like, Dustin and Tepe founded it. These two brothers, the bass player and the drummer, Riley and Eddie, it's always been them. No one's ever been shelved or replaced or gone for a while and come back in some of those confusing lineup changes. Thrice doesn't have that. So if they did, it would be one of those things where it'd be like, can you still call it Thrice without that particular drummer? Or Tepe? I mean, how would it be Thrice without him? Doesn't make sense. It's got to be those guys or it's not Thrice. So Seneca. Point number 2 is Seneca's influence. The album title comes from a quote by the Stoic philosopher Seneca, emphasizing the modern struggle of being overwhelmed by distractions and the need to focus. Seneca was a Roman philosopher, a statesman, and a playwright who lived around 4 BCE to 65 CE. He's best known for his contributions to the Stoic philosophy, which emphasizes rationality, self-control, and virtue as a path to true happiness. Seneca served as an advisor to Emperor Nero and later fell out of favor and was forced to commit suicide under suspicious circumstances, likely due to political intrigue. Seneca's works include essays on ethics and letters to his friend Lucius, who he explored themes like the brevity of life, anger management, and the nature of happiness. His plays, which are often violent and dramatic, were influential in shaping Roman theater. Despite his wealth and political power, Seneca advocated for asceticism and simplicity, famously advising others to focus on wisdom rather than material wealth. Point number 3, we're talking political and social themes on the record. Lyrically, the album is one of the most socially conscious, touching on issues like war, greed, media manipulation, blood on the sand, and death from above are particularly critical of violence and power structures. I thought this was a good opportunity for me to get into some of the lyrics that stood out to me when I was listening to it a lot, which finding one-liners and stuff like that, it's not that kind of, some of those songs have those call-outs and those standout lines during the bridges and stuff like that. This record isn't as much that. The song structure is a lot more traditional, but there's still some really powerful pieces that I wanted to take from it. In particular, the opening track, Hurricane, the chorus where it says, "It's gonna rain till the levee breaks, and the tidal wave of fear and pain carries us away. Another fight into the night until nothing else remains. How do we find harbor from the hurricane?" And how he's using, for me, the tumultuous times that I was going through at the time and how he seems to be very clearly talking about relationship, conflicts in a relationship, those periods of time where you can be with someone where you care for each other but you're at odds, and it goes on for days, and it's just really difficult to go through. Relating that time period using a hurricane as like a simile or a metaphor for that type of time period, I just thought was very creative and very clever, and I related to it a lot at the time. I took it too. I took this idea and I revamped it into something that I thought I could use. I'm not sure which demo list it's on, but if you get on my Spotify or YouTube or Apple Music, whatever it is, you look up Scott Thompson and you look up the song Weathering the Storm. I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, but years after, when I re-recorded it, because I recorded it as an acoustic demo on my phone when I didn't have really any tools, and then later when I had a good working laptop and some tools at my disposal, I cranked out, basically, like, I just tried to crank out a demo of everything that I thought I'd written that I'd never put to tape. I was like, let's just get it down so that I have a backbone that's really clear for whatever it needs to be. If it's never more than this, that's cool. If I end up redoing it for some reason, at least I can remember how it went, because I just can't stand the idea of having a part of a song or even having a whole song and all it lives in is in a notebook on a piece of paper, because it just, when you don't play it, you lose it. Weathering the Storm was an absolute direct influence from not only this album's tone, but that idea. Mine was a lot more autobiographical and direct than the Hurricane, but if you listen to that song, you'll see it's like, yeah, it makes sense that that's what I was listening to at the time. I really love the first part of, I think you would call it the third verse. It feels more like a bridge, but the section in Black Honey when he says, "Now I'm cutting that branch off the cherry tree, singing this will be my victory, and I see them coming after me, and they're following me across the sea." It's just that whole idea of like being right, thinking that you got something, thinking that you figured something out, and then feeling like everybody around you just wants to tear you down. And it's such an interesting song in and of itself anyway. But yeah, I just feel like that's a really well-written, poetic part. The last one that I grabbed onto was the song that comes after that on that record, on side B, "Stay With Me." It's again that I feel like if you were to take the argument or whatever's going on in the Hurricane and then take it to just like his perspective of trying to convey wanting to fix things. And this one in particular also talks about, like, I've been not into it anymore, but I spent a good 5 or 6 years in the, like, prepper, like, the end is near type mindset, like buying 200 pounds of rice and beans, not even knowing how to cook beans, but being like, this will come in handy if I ever need it. And then being like, 5 years later, looking at the beans going like, are you sure you still need these around? Because you could put real things on those shelves that you would eat. I don't know. It's just, I don't fall for that level of, like, I kind of think now that being prepared for real things is worthwhile and practical, and being prepared for things that you couldn't control or predict anyway is a bit foolish, especially when you consider that, you know, everybody's got like a set number of resources, right? And at the very least, you have a mental capacity of only so many things you can think of and take care of on a daily basis. And if you're spending your preparation time stocking up food that you don't know how to cook instead of making sure that your smoke detectors have batteries in them, you know what I mean? What are you doing there? I feel like that was kind of where my mindset was, but he kind of talks in this section of Stay With Me as if like it's kind of like a dystopian future, like everything has kind of fallen apart and him and his spouse or his woman are hiding out from whoever's trying to get them. And the way that he wrote this second verse is, after the fever left, together we scavenged through the city and her scars. And when the day would end, by the door against the demons in the dark, we share a can of something and a bottle of bourbon I'd hidden away. It warmed me from within and you from without, till I forget the chill ingrained. It's just, I think it's very beautiful. I think that when the chorus comes in, when he just repeats, "Would you stay with me?" Until the war was over, and stuff like that. It's just it paints a really a beautiful picture, I think. Moving on to the tone of the record, right? So it has a darker and a heavier sound compared to the atmospheric record Beggars, which came out in 2009, which I should say, bought that on CD when I was living out in Big Sky. 2009. I mean, I bought that when it came out, and we spun that a lot, and that is a wonderful record. Atmospheric, I don't know, but they're saying Beggars and Major Minor, which came out in 2011. Those were more atmospheric. This one leans more into the heavier, hard-hitting rock with distortion and aggressive riffs reminiscent of their the Artist in the Ambulance era. Thrice achieved a heavier and darker tone. That's what I asked him, is like, what was it about this record that made that happen? So Thrice achieved the heavier and darker tones on To Be Everywhere Is To Be Nowhere through a combination of musical experimentation, production techniques, and thematic direction. There are some key elements that contributed to that. Heavier instrumentation. So the band turned more aggressive and riff-driven compared to their previous records, and the guitars feature more distortion and drive with a focus on thick, crunchy riffs and dynamic, punchy sections. The drummer, Riley Breckenridge, also employed a more intense and complex rhythm, which added to the sense of urgency in the songs. Production choices. Thrice worked with producer Eric Palmquist, who also worked on records for bands such as Bad Sons and Mute Math, to bring a raw, organic feel to the album. The production emphasized clarity and power, allowing the band's heavier moments to shine while maintaining a atmospheric depth and use of more live sound. Less polished production contributed to that darker, grittier atmosphere. So, of course, I have to ask, who's Eric Palmquist? He's highly regarded as an American music producer, engineer, and a musician in his own right. He's earned a reputation of bringing dynamic and raw quality to music, blending accessibility with an organic live sound. There's some key highlights from his career. Early in his career, he was a musician before he transitioned into producing and engineering. His early work in bands exposed him to the intricacies of recording and mixing, giving him valuable hands-on experience. For his production style, he's known for his ability to capture organic performances and enhance the emotional depth of a song. Palmquist has a production style that emphasizes live-sounding recordings and a balance between raw energy and polished execution. We talked about that before, what a fine line that is of being able to, like, clean, clear, but raw and real. Where's the line? It's so hard. And I think they caught it with this one for sure. He often works with bands to help them refine their sound while maintaining their unique identity. So what were his notable collaborations? Thrice, Obviously, it was one of his most notable collaborations when he helped them make this record, because he brought a heavier and more dynamic sound to the band, which contributed to the album's success and its more politically charged themes. Bad Sons, he worked with them producing their debut record, Language and Perspective, which came out in 2014. His work with that band helped shape their atmospheric and yet accessible sound, contributing to their rise in popularity. I've never listened to them before. We've got to put them on the list. Mute Math, too. I've heard this name forever. I could not... If I go to their, Spotify or whatever, and I go on their top plays and I hear something I recognize, I'd be surprised because I don't know the name off the... Like, I've heard the name, but I couldn't give you a sound at all. But Mute Math, he worked with them as well. They're an experimental rock band, collaborating on albums that showcased his skill capturing their complex layered sound. But he's worked with a wide range of artists from rock to pop to punk. He just has a knack for bringing out energetic guitar-driven bands and more introspective atmospheric artists. And they say he's versatile at engineering because apart from his production, he's earned accolades for his engineering work, ensuring that the technical aspects of the recording enhance the emotional and artistic components. And his attention to detail in mixing and mastering have made him a sought-after professional in the music industry. So he's got a last note on him is that there's a reputation for, or he has a reputation for high-quality sound. He's had the ability to balance raw energy with high-quality, clear production, making his work stand out in both the indie and the mainstream music scenes. His projects often receive praise for their authenticity and depth, which I use that word authenticity all the time. So I can't be surprised that a guy like that's worked with Thrice, because that's, I think that's one of the things it's worth noting when it comes to this record in particular, because I've shown, I show everything to my wife. I show all the songs I listen to. I mean, everything, right? And this band in particular has been the hardest sell of any band that I've ever showed my wife. Thrice, she just can't do it. And she has a distaste for a certain type of music that I share as well. We know Matt Skiba called it Her to Her. Call it modern rock. Call it butt rock. Call it whatever you want. It's basically everything from like Creed's second record and on, as far as that style of just meathead rock, man. It's just Breaking Benjamin, it's Seether, it's Shinedown, it sounds like the same band, man. It's just all rolled into this, and obviously Nickelback, and they're the kings of it, right? Like this, and you call it Her to Her because, as Matt Skiba explained, at some point in the song, the guy is going to make some kind of sound that's along the lines of like a her to her. It's just like, it's not okay. It's very wrong. I was recently talking a lot of crap about Daughtry. I'm saying he's cut from the same cloth. These guys that work in mechanic shops, I don't know. I could go on and guess. I don't know how to explain it. Basement dwellers? Who listens to this stuff? I don't know. 93X plays it. And there's a segment of people who listen to it and they're like, hell yeah, man. It's just like, I can't. I listened to Metallica when I was 13. I tell people this all the time. When I turned 14, I realized I was too old for that stuff. And I left that style of stuff behind me. And so, not to go on like a total rant about that style of modern rock or whatever you want to call it, but she puts Thrice in that category, and it breaks my brain every time she says it, because I'm like, how dare you? Like, what are you talking about? And then there's certain elements of this song and songs on Palms and like the newer stuff that's like, can I see what she's saying? Yes. But if you only knew the context, you would never say it. If you're only really listening, you would never draw those comparisons. But is it fair? Leave a comment. Let me know. Because if I'm listening to Her to Her, and I'm just calling it Thrice, I'll live with it. I don't care, but I'm still going to talk crap. Anyways, so, the reason why I brought that up was because of authenticity. There's been so many people who try to get me to explain why I despise bands like Disturbed and Godsmack and all of that stuff that I'm mixing into this bowl of Her to Her. Why do I despise it so much? And I had a hard time explaining it until I realized what my real problem was, and it was authenticity. I feel like when I'm listening to them, I don't believe you. Or if I do believe that you mean this, you're weird. You're just a weird guy. I wouldn't hang out with you. I wouldn't want my kids around you. You're a strange person. I don't trust you, okay? But Thrice is authentic. Thrice has been authentic since Identity Crisis. These guys, they have that same thing. They toured with Hot Water Music on the Illusion of Safety tour. That same tour I was talking about with Coheed, with Second Stage Turbine Blade. Those people can't intermix in an inauthentic zone. You can't do business with people that are full of crap to that extent. I've always believed Dustin means what he's saying, and maybe it's just the way that it comes out of the speaker and into my ear and into my heart and in my understanding. Chad Kroger doesn't get that. Scott Stapp doesn't get that. No, I can't. Puddle of Bud? Muddle of Bud. No. You can't put Cruddle of Bud in the same category as Thrice. Kaylin's still wrong. I don't know what she's talking about. Moving on. Notable works. We want to know what the notable works are for this great guy, Eric Palmquist, because he worked so hard on this record, and it is not Her to Her. Could you just? So he obviously gets notable remarks for this record. Bad Sons, Language and Perspective from 2014. Mute Math's record, Odd Soul, 2011. And The Colorist, self-titled album from 2014. Eric Palmquist continues to shape the sound of alternative and indie rock and bring a blend of energy and emotion and clarity to the artists that he works with. So why else was the album dark? Why did it get this kind of aura about it? Its thematic and lyrical approach. Lyrically, the album explores darker and more politically charged themes such as war, greed, and societal collapse. The thematic shift aligns with the heavier and more intense musical arrangements, reinforcing the sense of tension and urgency throughout the album. Vocals and dynamics. Dustin's vocals play a huge role in creating the darker atmosphere. His delivery on songs like Blood in the Sand and Hurricane are often more intense and emotionally charged, adding to the album's overall weight. His mix of clean vocals with the occasional screams and grittier moments contributes to the rawness of the record. And lastly, atmospheric elements. While the album's heavy, it also features atmospheric passages and melodies, creating a contrast that enhances the sense of darkness. Songs like The Long Defeat and Whistleblower feature moments of subtlety and reflection amidst the intensity. There's also a 1-minute sonic atmospheric filler spot that they titled Seneca, which is kind of cool to know that they pinpoint the author of the title of the record, but you gotta kind of know a guy who knows a guy to figure it out. All right, so we're moving on to the recording location. So where was this record made? It was recorded at The Cottage, which is located in Pasadena, California. And they liked working in a more intimate, focused environment, allowing them to craft the album with a level of detail and intentionality that helped shape the album's darker tone. The studio's vibe and the band's collective energy during the recording process contributed to a raw, powerful sound that permeates through the album. The Cottage is a well-known recording studio located in Pasadena, California, Famous for its intimate and creative environment that allows artists to capture a raw, organic sound, the studio has been a key space for various influential albums, particularly in the rock, indie, and alternative genres. Its laid-back atmosphere, combined with its state-of-the-art equipment, makes it a popular choice for artists who want to achieve a balance between professional production quality and a live, in-the-moment feel. Highlights about the cottage. So it was established as a recording studio in Pasadena, California. The location contributes to the studio's unique charm, being nestled in a residential area while it has a relaxed yet focused vibe, offering the privacy and comfort that many musicians prefer during the recording process. The studio's style and vibe. The studio is known for fostering creativity and helping artists explore their sound in a non-pressured, intimate setting. The design includes a spacious live room for recording, as well as various vintage and modern instruments, making it versatile for bands and solo artists alike. Many artists choose the cottage because of their ability to capture organic and live sounds while still feeling like they're in a controlled studio environment. Key records that were recorded there. Thrice's record we already talked about. The Bad Son record we already talked about. The Mute Math record we already talked about. And The Colorist. All of those records. So why are those all the same featured records of the same engineer? Drum roll, please. The Cottage has hosted many successful collaborations between producers and artists, with the producer Eric Palmquist, because he's a key feature in the studio's reputation. It's essentially his shop. Palmquist's work at the Cottage has contributed to the success of many bands, such as Thrice and Bad Sons. Over the years, the Cottage has been known as a place where bands can capture their authentic sound while maintaining a high level of production quality. The studio has helped artists create timeless albums that feel raw and energetic, and it is a perfect location for artists who want to preserve their creative integrity. So there's a short list of key records that were made there. It's the same four that I previously mentioned, but there's a fifth, and there's a band called The Deer Hunter, who I'm also not familiar with at all. But apparently their record, Act 3, Life and Death, 2009, also recorded at the same place. The Cottage continues to be a respected recording space, providing an environment that balances technical excellence with artistic freedom, helping artists produce memorable albums that resonate with their listeners. So, there you go, The Cottage. Never heard of it before. It seems like a pretty important place. It'd be cool to tour some of these places that I've been talking about in these different episodes. Number 5, as far as top 10 fun things to know about the record. So Black Honey has symbolism in it, clearly. It's one of the band's most popular songs, and it uses a metaphor of a persistent fly chasing honey to represent the endless cycle of greed and the consequences of imperialism. So I read that, and I said, great. It's a very short, explanation of what the song's about, but I'm not 100% sure that I know what imperialism is. I know that if I hear somebody say imperialism, I'm supposed to assume that it's not good. I also am I don't know. I would say from a political standpoint, I'm kind of like a quintessential devil's advocate. So it's if you tell me that I'm really not supposed to like something, I really got to find out why people do like it, and then I'll make up my own mind. Thank you very much. So I thought that it would be a nice little side quest just to discuss simply what is imperialism, why do people hate it, why do people think it's okay, and how will that help us understand when it comes to a fly chasing honey in this Last time I checked, it's their top song still. Black Honey's their number one song of all their streaming accounts. It's a fly chasing honey to represent the endless cycle of greed and the consequences of imperialism. So, please bear with me here. Imperialism is a policy or ideology in which a country seeks to extend its power and control over other nations and territories, often through colonization, military force, or economic dominance. It can manifest in various forms, such as territorial expansionism, which would be colonialization, economic exploitation through trade or resources, or political influence, imposing governance or control. So historically, imperialism has often been associated with European powers like Britain, France, and Spain, who colonized large parts of Africa, Asia, and the Americas. The goal of imperialism was often to extract resources, expand markets, and increase political power, while subordinating the cultures, economies, and the government structures of those dominated regions. So why do people not like that? Exploitation and oppression. Imperialism often involves exploiting resources and labor and people of colonized regions for the benefit of the imperial power. This leads to the oppression and suffering of indigenous populations, including forced labor, displacement, and loss of autonomy. Cultural erasure and assimilation. So, imperial powers often sought to impose their own culture, religion, and political systems on the populations that they control. This resulted in the erasure or the suppression of local customs, languages, and traditions, leading to a loss of cultural identity for many communities. Economic inequality. While imperial powers profited immensely from the resources and the labor of colonized regions, the local populations typically saw little benefit. Imperialism often created vast economic inequalities, with wealth flowing to the imperial power while the colonized people remained impoverished. 4. Violence and conflict. Imperialism often relied on military force, leading to wars, massacres, and violent suppression of resistance. Indigenous people were frequently subjected to violence in the name of maintaining control, which led to long-lasting trauma and instability. 5. Political control and lack of autonomy. So imperialism typically involved the imposition of foreign governments that lacked legitimacy in the eyes of the local populations. Colonized peoples were often denied political representation and self-determination, leaving them without the ability to govern themselves or have a say in their future. Lastly, 6. Environmental damage. The extraction of natural resources for the benefit of imperial powers often led to environmental degradation, including deforestation, pollution, and the depletion of local ecosystems, leaving a lasting damage to the land and the resources of the colonized regions. So why is imperialism still criticized today? The legacy of imperialism still affects many parts of the world today. The inequities, conflicts, and power imbalances established during the colonial period often persist, creating ongoing struggles for political independence, economic justice, and cultural preservation. Critics argue that modern forms of imperialism, like neocolonialism, which is economic dominance through multinational corporations or international organizations, continue to exploit marginalized, vulnerable populations. In short, many people dislike imperialism because it generally leads to exploitation, violence, inequality, and a loss of autonomy for those affected, with long-lasting negative consequences for the individuals and the societies. While imperialism is widely criticized for its negative impacts on colonized people, some people or groups have historically supported it for various reasons, particularly those who benefit from the system. Here are some of the aspects that have made imperialism appealing to certain individuals, governments, or entities. First of all, the economic gain, access to resources. You've got imperial powers who benefited from the natural resources, which could be minerals, crops, oil, whatever, of the territories that they're controlling. These resources could be extracted cheaply and sent back to the imperial power, boosting their economy and providing raw materials for industries. It also can help with new markets. Imperialism creates new markets for goods produced by the imperial country. Colonized regions became consumers of the imperial power's products, which helped fuel the industrial growth and trade. All I can think about while reading all of this is how does Coca-Cola, how does Coca-Cola end up in Indonesia? You know what I mean? Or something like that. It's like, yeah, that's those multinational corporations that so if you make a really, really great small soda, but you can't get it on the shelf at your local gas station in Indonesia because Coke already got everything worldwide, everywhere. It's that does cause a problem. Not to bogart the topic, but I'm trying to draw something that is practical and relatable, and I feel like Coca-Cola is a really good analogy for this whole thing. So yeah, that's when they're talking about new markets. Colonized region become consumers of the imperial power's products and help fuel industrial growth and trade. Wealth creation as well. Imperialism often leads to the accumulation of wealth for individuals, corporations, and governments in the imperial power. The flow of resources and profits from colonies help fund infrastructure, technological advances, and public works in the imperial nation. Strategic military advantages as well. When your territory expands, empires can expand their influence by newly acquired lands, which often provide military or strategic advantages, which could involve positioning military bases or controlling key trade routes, which strengthen the imperial power's global influence. National prestige and power as well. A strong empire was seen as a sign of national power and prestige. The more territories a country controlled, the more influence it wielded in the world stage. This helped create a sense of national pride, as empires were often celebrated as symbols of dominance and cultural superiority. Third, the civilizing mission. Some imperialists believed that they were doing a good thing by bringing their culture, values, and religion to people they were colonizing. This was often framed as a civilizing mission, where colonizers felt it was their duty to spread their version of civilization, which could have been their religion, their type of education, their customs, to supposedly who they saw were backwards people or primitive people. There's also a social Darwinism. A popular justification for imperialism is social Darwinism, the idea that stronger nations have a right to dominate the weaker ones, and it's framed as a natural process where superior cultures or races would control inferior ones, perpetuating a belief in racial or cultural hierarchies. 4, political control and stability, unifying control. For imperial powers, managing large swaths of land could provide political stability at home by ensuring that colonies were governed under one centralized system. This was seen as a way to maintain order and prevent domestic instability. There's also the expansion of influence. So imperialism allowed powerful countries to extend their political influence across the world. By exerting control over other regions, imperial powers could shape international policy and exert dominance in global affairs, often dictating the terms of trade, alliances, and conflict. Technological and infrastructure development. Imperialism often led to the development of infrastructure in colonized regions such as railroads, ports, and regular roads. These projects were mainly intended to benefit the imperial power. They did contribute to modernizing certain areas, and then they would sometimes benefit from Oh, sometimes the local economies would benefit. Yeah, I think that's really interesting when you look at like these tribes out in the Amazon right now that are having computers dropped off, and there's either Starlink there or there's something else, and it's like the young guys are supposed to be building and hunting and doing what their people have done forever, and instead they're like, whoa, YouTube. And it's not good. It's not helping. From the elders' standpoint, some people might think that's good. I mean, like I say, devil's advocate, I mean, could it benefit them somehow? I don't know, man. I don't think Ren and Stimpy is probably helpful when they need to eat tomorrow, to put it nicely. They're not spending time learning with it. They're meeting a lot of base needs. You can drop a comment if you want me to elaborate. But yeah, the technological advances. So the demands of empire building spurred technological innovations, particularly in navigation, communication, and the industrial processes, which are often implemented in imperial countries and colonies. So yeah, you could be mad about imperialism, but you'd have to turn in your phone, or you'd have to turn in, any of the inventions that the United States has had, I guess, for the last 100 years through the Industrial Revolution. If there's things that you really enjoy now, like your fast car, whatever else. I don't know. I'd have to dig in deeper, but the point they're trying to make is that there's a lot of technological advances that happen when certain countries acquire a lot of stuff that they can do that benefit themselves and some other countries. And if you have a problem with that, you should probably try and remove those things from your life, because to have them and complain about it is odd. Social and ideological justifications. In some cases, imperialism often offered economic opportunities for citizens of imperial nations, such as jobs in the military, governments, or corporations that operate in colonies. These opportunities maintain social order and stability within an imperial nation. Cultural exchange, while often framed as a one-sided manner, imperialism sometimes leads to an exchange. Yeah, Chinese restaurants. Sure it does. For example, European colonization of India and other regions introduced new foods, spices, arts, and ideas to the West, which influenced global culture in lasting ways. Sure did. National security, having buffer zones and defense. Imperial expansion could be seen as a means of creating buffer zones to protect imperial homeland from external threats. Colonies and territories could serve as protective outposts in case there were conflicts with rival powers. So, in conclusion, while many of the perceived benefits of imperialism serve the interests of the imperial powers and their citizens, these advantages were built on the exploitation and oppression of colonized people. Today, the support for imperialism is often linked to historical justifications, such as economic growth or national prestige, but such perspectives are increasingly criticized for ignoring the immense suffering and long-lasting damage caused by colonialism and imperialism. So, when he's saying, where are we at? In Black Honey, when he's saying the endless cycle and consequences of imperialism, consequences for the other people. Yeah, okay, so that makes sense, because he's talking about been swinging my hand at a swarm of bees because I want honey on my table. He's trying to say, think about those other, the swarm of bees being all these other countries, or these little areas, and he's trying to amass for themselves, but they never get it right. Huh. Yeah, that little side quest, that was worth it. I would highly encourage all of you who just listen to me go on that little spiel to please go and listen to Black Honey now and think about what we just read through as a metaphor, because that is dense. I really enjoyed that. And whether you would say good, bad, in between, or otherwise, I mean, draw your own conclusion. So number 6 on our top 10 list of things to know about this Thrice record, they said that it was self-produced with Eric Palmquist, and I was like, well, what is their self-produced, like, what's that all about? Why is that being noted now? And what I got was that Thrice has a history of self-producing or working with collaborators to craft their distinctive sound, which has evolved throughout their career. While they've worked with various producers, some of their albums showcase a deep involvement in the production process, reflecting their growth as a band and their desires to maintain control over their creative vision. So in their early career, they worked with producers like Brian McTernan, who's known for working with bands like Hot Water Music and Circus Survive on those first few albums, including The Illusion of Safety and The Artist in the Ambulance. Those albums helped solidify their post-hardcore roots. McTernan's production contributed to their early sound, focusing on aggressive guitar work and intricate drum patterns. But as their sound evolved, they began to experiment more with production style. They worked with Steve Everts and who had experience with the Dillinger Escape Plan, but also Saves the Day. So there's a spectrum there. And he helped push them more in experimental areas and incorporating some of those electronic elements and the atmospheric tones. They've also worked with Jeremy Weisenbach and Chris Walla from Death Cab for Cutie. They worked together on the Alchemy Index, and they were responsible for pushing them into a more self-directed phase. After they came back from the hiatus and they made this record, it was a step for them in their self-production aspect, because for this album they worked with that Eric Palmquist, and he had been producing these other bands who also liked being really hands-on and just really involved in the process. And so they picked him because they knew that he was good at capturing the live sound, as well as keeping bands like as ones who have like that DIY kind of ethic, that they would work together really well, while still trying to keep things clean and clear. So yeah, self-production has been it's been a part of their entire process. Something else that came up, in the next number 7, there it is. They said that this record was a evolution in his lyrical approach, because he had explored more Christian themes in the past, and now he was kind of turning more towards philosophical, existential, and it reflected that he had an evolving worldview, which I can relate with that a lot too, because my worldview does evolve as well, and I have always identified with his writing in all of their phases too. So it was kind of neat to see that he just has, not only to see that he was exploring Stoicism, but then to also see that I didn't realize that there were Christian themes throughout any of their material, but I wanted to know more about that and how we ended up here. So when we're talking about like The Artist in the Ambulance, songs like Stare at the Sun reflecting salvation, redemption, the idea of grappling with your purpose. The lyrics talk about a fear of judgment and a desire for grace, showing a reflection of spiritual themes, as well as like the struggle between doubt and fear, right? Doubt and faith. It's like the great wrestling match in your mind. And then when you move on from that record to Vesu, the particular songs, The Earth Will Shake and Red Sky, which feature apocalyptic type of imagery, Dustin explores existential questions like suffering and transcendence. They marked a shift towards more philosophical tone and blending his Christian symbolism with broader themes like personal redemption and universal truth. So then when we get to Beggars, it's more of a personal struggle. He's talking about a brokenness, and his exploration of the Christian ideas are a lot more subtle in like an internalizing type manner. Tracks like All the World is Mad and Circles speak to issues of morality and grace and the complexities of faith. But to be everywhere is to be nowhere. His focus had shifted, and though his Christianity, the elements of it are still present, there's themes that are more universally philosophical, reflecting a broader view of spirituality, morality, and the human condition beyond just Christian ideas. In the song Black Honey, when he's talking about societal greed, consumerism, and power struggles, the moral corruption and the consequence of unchecked desire echo Christian teachings and the dangers of materialism and selfishness. The metaphor of black honey is a potent symbol of something that looks sweet and desirable but ultimately leads to destruction, a reflection of biblical warnings against sin and temptation. Blood on the Sand. The song reflects on war and violence, echoing Christian themes of peace and condemnation as senseless killing. While it does not directly focus on the Christian doctrine, the lyrics call to attention the consequences of human conflict, injustice, and apathy, which are issues often addressed in Christian teachings about the value of life and compassion for others. Hurricane, in that track, Justin sings about personal turmoil and the search for inner peace, which can be interpreted as a spiritual journey. The storm or hurricane is a metaphor in Christian imagery to determine or to describe life's struggles and the search for redemption or peace in God. But here it's applied more broadly to the human condition. And there's two more songs here that they talk about these connections. The Long Defeat, the song speaks of feelings of despair and defeat when facing systemic issues and personal failures. The concept of the long defeat echoes Christian ideas about suffering and impertinence of earthly struggles. It speaks to the idea that though they're painful, they're part of a larger redemptive narrative. And the song also invites listeners to consider the broader societal context in our role in working towards justice and compassion. Last one is Whistleblower. This track focuses on the abuse of power, corruption, and the importance of speaking out against injustices. While it doesn't necessarily invoke Christian doctrine directly, it resonates with the Christian values of justice, mercy, and standing up for people who are oppressed. The song critiques those in positions of power who perpetrate harm, highlighting a moral responsibility to confront wrongdoing. So, yeah. That's some deep stuff. And you know what, Thrice, you got to get into it deep. You can't avoid it. You know, with some bands you can kind of stay a little bit more like personal, a little bit more surface level type stuff. But Thrice has always been a deeper level type of band. That's why I get all bent out of shape when she tells me they're her to her. I'm telling you guys, when you know this band well, I knew, and I hope anybody who clicked on this that knows who Thrice is, you knew we were not going to get out of this without getting somewhere philosophical and definitely somewhere political. You're never going to really get out of me too much hardline. This is what I know is absolutely correct, 100% this way, that way, whatever. I try to keep my opinions pretty ambiguous for the sake of everyone because it's exhausting. But I do think that we can still touch on those issues and touch on the one side of the coin and the other and leave it open to interpretation. With certain bands, certain situations, especially Thrice, it's gonna be impossible to avoid. We've got 3 more. We're up to number 8. We're going to be talking about the live energy of this record because I was real curious how much they toured this record because that was when I saw them. That's when I found out about the record. That's where I bought it. So songs from this album became instant fan favorites at live shows, especially The Hurricane, The Long Defeat, and Black Honey, due to their anthemic choruses and emotionally charged performances. The touring schedule for Thrice around this record were an integral part of their promotion and success. After a 4-year hiatus, the band's return to the road was an extensive tour of North America and internationally. So, North America 2016, they kicked off the tour in the spring and summer. It was a major event for fans who'd been waiting for them for a long time, and there were a lot of supportive acts on a lot of different runs. Mutoid Man. For many of the US and Canada, Thrice was accompanied by Mutoid Man, a supergroup featuring members of Converge and Cave-In. What the? Gonna have to dig into those guys. Their heavy riff-driven sound was aligning well with Thrice's dynamic performance and provided a hard-hitting opening act. Caspian also toured with them through several dates in 2016. Very energetic opening act. And then, of course, we have the tour with Nothing Nowhere and Law Dispute. That was a specific tour where Thrice was the headliner, which was expanding. That was the particular tour that was meant to showcase the record for a broader audience, alongside with some of the older material that the fans had come to love. Once they were in full comeback mode after their hiatus, they brought new, heavier, more politically charged sound to the stage. Nothing Nowhere was a particular exciting inclusion for many fans. It's a project of Joe Mulhern, who blends elements of emo, hip-hop, and alternative rock. His inclusion on the tour brought a fresh genre-bending, careful with the REs on that one, genre-bending vibe that combined introspective, emotional lyricism with atmospheric production, which complemented Thrice's more post-hardcore melodic style. That one was not a solo performance on that tour. He had other people. It was a band, and they made me feel very Robin Hood Hillsies. Okay. Same feeling I got when I saw All Get Out. Very just post-hardcore, bummed out tunes. Done very well. Law Dispute, known for their emotionally intense music and intricate storytelling, Law Dispute inclusion in that tour added an extra layer of rawness and catharsis to the lineup. Their blend of post-hardcore and spoken word style, with themes often focused on personal struggles and the human experience, fit well with Thrice's darker, more socially aware themes. Law Dispute's live performance were often charged with emotional energy, and they had a devoted fan base that made their sets memorable. Who else toured there? There was just a variety of sound on the tours. There was a lot of... Oh, the UK. Yeah, they toured the UK and Europe in 2017. They went to the UK, France, Germany, and the Netherlands. And then they co-headlined with the Deftones in 2017 in another series of... these were arena shows. When I saw them, it was at First Avenue. So once they had Deftones co-headlining, then they could do arena shows. They did some festival appearances. They played at the Download Festival in the UK and Shaky Knees Festival in Atlanta, Georgia. Never heard of that one. That one sounds cool. They came back with another round of US tours where they toured with the Bronx and Teenage Wrist. Yeah. So, the artwork. We're talking about the artwork. It was a simple textured pattern with minimalist design, reflecting the album's introspective and direct themes. The artwork for Everywhere Is to Be Nowhere was created by Nicolas Delort, a French artist and art and illustrator known for his detailed and atmospheric artwork. Delort is recognized for his ability to create visually striking, often dark, moody designs that fit perfectly into the themes of the album. The album cover featured a detailed illustration of a person standing over a cliff. That's what that's supposed to be? I always wondered. It does kind of look mountainous. Yeah. The darkened sky above, the surreal, almost dystopian feel of the artwork complements the album's themes and societal issues, personal introspective, and existential struggle. Dolores' work, including the artwork for Thrice, has been characterized by its use of light and shadow, which uses to create depth and texture, often gives pieces a timeless classic feel. His style is well suited for conveying darker, more introspective themes that are present in Thrice's music throughout this period. So a little bit more about him. Like we said, he's from France. We always going to look for notable works because his work with Thrice was obviously a big part, but he also has worked with the Deer Hunter and he worked with the Black Keys, kind of helping, contributing to their visual identities as well. He's done some illustration for books as well and some editorial pieces and various visual arts. He's drawn inspiration from various sources, including traditional graphic artists like Gustave Dore and Eugene Delarue. Man, my French is good. Whose work was known for their dynamic use of light and shadows. So, yeah, a little bit about that guy. We'll get into number 10, which is the charting success. So, this is another one. Like I say, we haven't had that many on the podcast so far, where we've been able to talk about any sort of like sales figures or charting or anything like that, but this one as well. It debuted number 15 on the Billboard 200 list, making it one of Thrice's highest charting releases, proving their relevance after such a long hiatus. It was available on vinyl, CD, digital downloads. It also sold 21,000 copies. Its first week, and 28,000 of those were physical. I guess they were keeping track of digital downloads at that time. It's weird. But the lead single, Black Honey, garnered substantial attention, accumulating over 8.3 million views on YouTube and 16 million streams on Spotify. So for the vinyl pressing, it was available in multiple editions, including exclusive color variants. For instance, Newberry Comics offered exclusive color vinyl pressings, such as blue vinyl with rainbow splatter, which was limited to 300, and the first pressing was limited to 1,000, with sales strategies were influencing their availability. Most were in standard black. Like I said, Newberry Comics did this blue version with rainbow splatter. Limited other colors. Yeah, they don't give me very much details on the other colors, but it's saying basically that they did a handful of other colors and they could range anywhere from 500 to 3,000 each. Marbled, clear, or marbled were limited to 5 or 100, which, yeah, and it was available on CD. I asked about cassette. Let's see. Cassette editions, though less common, were also produced, reflecting the band's commitment to offer diverse. They were probably bootlegs from Indonesia. I'll have to look that up and see if I can find one. But I was curious, before I open this bad boy up, I was just curious because I kept seeing this Newberry Comics thing coming up, and it came up previously in reading about other things as well. So I was just like, give me a quick, what the heck is Newberry Comics? So Newberry Comics is a popular American retailer who specializes in music, movies, comics, and pop culture merchandise. They were founded in 1978 in Boston by Mike Dries and Terry M. Healy. The store initially focused on selling vinyl records, but since they expanded to offer CDs, vinyl, graphic novels, and for a wide range of collectibles such as action figures, posters, and apparel. I bet that place, if they have a physical store, I bet it's got Funko Pops. That's good stuff. So some key things to know about them. It's a music hub. They sell comic books. Independent and exclusive releases. So for certain bands, certain records, they get rights to doing special vinyl pressings, which they did for this record too. And they operate several brick and mortar stores. Okay, so it's across New England. Have you found yourself hanging out in the areas of like Massachusetts? You could look up a Newberry comic store and go see what it's all about. Be one of those places, like when we travel, we always try to find like a local coffee shop, a local restaurant that's got something that you can only get there, like a family-owned type place or whatever. We try to find like a local landmark or something. We try to do a hike, like somewhere nearby where we're staying. And then we always try to find a record store and try to buy something local or known to be of that state or whatever. So if we were, we've talked about getting over onto the East Coast for a couple different reasons. Wife really wants to go to Salem in the fall and to find Edgar Allan Poe's grave too, stuff like that. A couple of reasons to get over there, so good. Gotta log that one for later. Newberry Comics, be a cool place to check out. They sound pretty important. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and open it up because this, like I say, this was the one I bought on the show, and this was this has BMG and Vagrant on the back, so this is not one of the Newberry comic ones, but their logos always had 3 lines, and for some reason it's got 7, 8. It's late. I'm kind of tired, so I can't see it that well, but very beautiful. One of the most beautiful records that I have, because not only does it come with a book that's got all the lyrics and like these beautiful big sheets and big artwork and everything, but you don't always get this level of packaging, to get the lyrics on big sheets like that. It's just wonderful. And to have a nice, this is a really big book. It's sewn on the edge of it, for the binding. It's marvelous. And the record itself, first of all, black slip jacket, usually white, so that's tasty. And then mine is like this really pretty bluish, whitish, swirly-ish color. It's gorgeous. I've just always been very happy that I didn't know what color it was when I bought it. And every time I take it out, there's something about the tone of the songs, the time period and everything. When I take this one out and put it on, I'm so happy. And just the color of the vinyl itself speaks a lot to that. I wish I could find, like I say, they just don't get real specific. They're not like No Idea. No Idea knows, like, we can tell you we got 452 black ones, we got 625, like they've got like their numbers down pat. And I guess when it gets bigger, they're just like, yeah, there's a bunch of swirly green ones. Like, they don't tell you. I like to know if I have one of 1,000 or one of 500 or one of 3,000, it's just like, it's fun to know that kind of stuff. So that's the package. It's thick. Like, it's probably another half as big as most of my other jackets because of that book that's in there. It's just like, it feels more like a real case, But as far as labels go, like I said, Vagrant put this out. Vagrant has a long history of working with alternative rock and post-hardcore bands, and Thrice has been associated with Vagrant for several releases. Epitaph also helped with distribution, and they again have a reputation that speaks for itself. We're just talking releases, types. So Vagrant. Vagrant and Epitaph were instrumental in distributing the album globally, ensuring that its reach both got to existing fans and was going to find new listeners. Vagrant is an influential American record label founded in 1996 by John Cohen, Rick Egan, and Jeff Gonzalez in Los Angeles, California. Known for their focus on alternative rock, indie, punk, and post-hardcore, Vagrant played a significant role in the 2000s indie rock movement. The label's success came from an ability to sign and develop talent across various genres, helping to shape modern alternative and rock music. In their early years, they formed in the mid-90s, and they all had a background in the music industry. They wanted to create a label that would help alternative artists get exposure. The name Vagrant was chosen because it represented independent, free-spirited ethics that they wanted the label to have. They signed a lot of up-and-coming artists in the early days. Some of their breakout artists that they had, especially in the 2000s, were the Get Up Kids. It was one of their early successes with their record Something to Write Home About in 1999. One of my absolute favorites. I had that on CD and I've yet to buy that on vinyl, but boy, am I due to listen to that one again. Dashboard Confessional, Chris Caraba's emotional, acoustic-driven pop-punk project became one of the label's biggest success stories with their record, The Places You've Come to Fear the Most, which kept me up for months. I loved that. I loved that CD so much. And they've had massive hits, so that's cool. Vagrant started with Thrice at The Artist in the Ambulance in Vesu, and then came back. You know, I looked up how to pronounce Tempe's name, but I did not look how to pronounce that name of that record either, and I've been guessing the whole time. Veissu. Visu? Drop me a comment. Tell me how you say that one. Again, our friends in the Alkaline Trio, their record after Maybe I'll Catch Fire, From Here to Infirmary, recorded at Pachyderm, released by Vagrant. It's all connected, guys. It's all here. And Motion City Soundtrack from Minneapolis, also worked with Nick from Pachyderm. It's all connected. Their pop punk and emo album, I Am the Movie, was a Vagrant release as well. Take that to the bank. They've expanded into some folk and electronic stuff as well as staying focused on punk. They also put out Hot Water Music's Caution. Spoiler alert, it's coming. That's all I'm going to say for now. They have something that they call the Vagrant sound. So in its heyday, Vagrant became synonymous with indie rock and emo in the early 2000s. So the label's roster often included emotive, introspective lyrics combined with catchy, energetic music, which people resonated with. And like I said, they started calling it the Vagrant sound. Recent years, they've been focusing on up-and-coming artists. They're still trying to develop. They're focused on being a development type label, and they are in cahoots with Universal Music Group, which helps with their distribution. Their legacy and their impact, we've already covered it. Epitaph. Let's talk about Epitaph a little bit. I understand Epitaph should be like everybody knows household type name as far as I'm concerned. This podcast is meant to be very much like you could know nothing and you could leave an episode with a bunch of information but not feel like anything was left out because you're assumed to know something. So Epitaph is known as one of the most influential independent record labels in the world, established or especially for their contributions to punk rock, pop punk, alternative music, and it was founded in 1981 by Bad Religion guitarist Brett Gurewitz in Los Angeles as well. Epitaph has played a significant role in the punk and alternative rock scenes in the U.S. and globally, become synonymous with the rise of punk, hardcore, and emo. So, Brett Gurewitz started the label. He used to call it Posh Boy Records. Oh, no, he had a label called Posh Boy. He shut it down. And then he was putting out the early Bad Religion stuff. So he put out How Could Hell Be Any Worse? And then he followed it up with other punk bands who needed help getting records out, like Social Distortion and The Offspring. Early on, they built a reputation for supporting punk and alternative bands that were outside of the mainstream. In the early 90s, though, they became a household name because they continued to support those bands. And whose record did they put out? Oh, I don't know. The Offspring's record, Smash, 1994. One of the biggest selling punk records of all time. So Epitaph became a household name after that. Bad Religion, obviously, when you're talking about the top of their roster with records like Stranger Than Fiction and The Process of Belief. The Offspring with Smash, Rancid, Out Come the Wolves. They have a distinctive punk, ska, and reggae influence. They helped diversify Epitaph's roster. Epitaph also put out Pennywise, NoFX, Social Distortion. These bands, with many others, helped Epitaph become synonymous with SoCal punk, dude. 90s and 2000s. Getting more into the 2000s and later, Epitaph picked up Rise Against from Chicago. They have more of a melodic hardcore style, which became one of the label's more successful acts, with records like Siren Song of the Counterculture and The Sufferer and The Witness. They also worked with The Used, Thrice, Drop Dead Gorgeous in the early 2000s. Epitaph's influence extends beyond traditional punk and started to include pop punk, emo, post-hardcore, and alternative rock with bands like At the Drive-In, Hot Water Music, Alkaline Trio, and Thursday. Wow, there's the lineup. So that helped expand them into alternative music. Nowadays, their punk roots remain strong, but they have diversified a lot. More indie rock, hardcore, even into metal. They continue to sign and develop new talent, reflecting a changing landscape of rock and alternative music. In recent years, they've worked with artists like Biffy Clyro, Bring Me the Horizon, and Beartooth. Epitaph has maintained its relevance by changing the music industry and continue to focus on artist development, supporting tours, and embracing the digital and streaming era. They have a unique approach because they've promoted DIY ethics, keeping many of its operations in-house and trying to stay flexible, fostering a direct relationship between the label and the artists. But they have a global influence. They put out Relationship of Command. I didn't realize that. They put out the first Used record. They put out At the Drive-In's Relationship of Command in 2000, which was like the Nevermind of what came next. I mean, that's a huge record. Yeah, and Out Come the Wolves. Yeah, pretty key milestones. So, we just went over a ton of information. I want to summarize it quick before we wrap this thing up. So Thrice's To Be Everywhere is To Be Nowhere is an album that marked the band's return after a 4-year hiatus. The album features a heavier, more politically charged sound with themes exploring societal issues, existential struggles, and personal introspective. While still influenced by Christian ideas, especially in the early albums, Dustin Crenshew's lyrics on this record take a broad, more philosophical and existential approach, addressing modern concerns such as consumerism, war, and apathy. The album was produced by Eric Palmquist at The Cottage, a studio known for its intimate atmosphere. It debuted number 15 on the Billboard 200 charts. Its first week sales topped 2,100 copies. The album was released on various formats, including vinyl, CD, cassette, and digital, with exclusive vinyl color editions available through retailers like Newberry Comics. The album artwork was created by Nicolas Delort, a French illustrator known for his intricate, dark, and atmospheric style, which perfectly complements the album's themes. Thrice's touring was... Thrice's touring for this album included notable stops with Nothing Nowhere and La Dispute as opening acts. This tour helped promote the album and connect old with new fans. Vagrant Records and Epitaph Records were the primary labels that helped with the release, and Epitaph handled distribution outside of the U.S. Vagrant was founded in '96 as an independent label that became known for their work with alternative and punk bands, including Dashboard Confessional, Thrice, and the Get Up Kids. Epitaph, founded by Brett Gurewitz of Bad Religion in 1981, helped define punk rock and landmark albums with The Offspring, Rancid, and Pennywise, later branching into pop punk, emo, and hardcore. These labels played key roles in the promotion of Thrice's music, helping them reach a broader audience. In sum, Thrice's To Be Everywhere Is to Be Nowhere is a powerful introspective record that blends philosophical, existential, and social themes, and its success was driven by a combination of the band's artistic evolution, solid label backing, and a memorable tour. This album was a defining moment in Thrice's career, signaling their return with a powerful mix of intensity, introspection, and thought-provoking themes. Take a bow. That's a lot about Thrice. Thanks for joining me on that. That was a long journey. I think it was a necessary one. I think that I'm finding my groove with how I do these deep dives on these records too, and it's a fun process. They're getting longer, but I think they're getting better and they're getting richer. And I'm having a great time doing it. So I appreciate y'all who are coming along with me on it. I'm shooting this on Saturday this week because tomorrow, Sunday, my usual recording day, my wife and I are taking my 4 and 6-year-old sons to their first concert. We are going to see Emmure, Callous Dowboys, Hawthorne Heights, which is why they're going, because she made them memorize Nikki FM from when they were very, very small. And for her, Cheetos. So, yeah, I'm going to get into that a little bit. I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of what I've been listening to. I did a little synopsis of what's going on with this concert tomorrow, and then I'm going to get some rest, and tomorrow's a big adventure day to head back to the Fillmore in Minneapolis. So what have I been listening to for the last 2 weeks? Well, my copy of Alkaline Trio's Goddammit showed up. It sounds better on vinyl than it sounds on anything I've ever listened to, and I was very, very happy to spin that bad boy. My colored one, it's split in the middle. It's half brown and half blue. It's awesome. It's one of the Goddammit Redux, like one of the anniversary copies. So I was very happy about that. We spun, we have this Atmosphere EP on vinyl that I've never listened to, and I don't remember how or why we bought it, but we did. And it's called Sad Clown Bad Fall 9. And what I found out about that was that Sad Clown Bad Fall was the name of a series of EPs that they put out on tour just for fun, and they numbered them, and they were usually like live things or kind of odds and ends, whatever. But then they finally decided to really finish one and put it out, so they did Sad Clown Bad Fall 9, Bad Winter 10, Bad Spring 11, Bad Summer 12, or something along the lines of like that. And it's awesome. It was great. It was good. It was good cleaning the house music for sure. No Devotion, I listened to their entire discography. All I can say is that it's all good if you like British new wave and you want to know what that would sound like if Jeff from Thursday sang it. It's wonderful. I'll be buying both those records on vinyl because it's really fantastic. Full Collapse. I got a copy of Full Collapse on vinyl, so I had to spin that again. That was wonderful. Like I said, my Sam I Am Astray cassette showed up, and in the Ford Taurus station wagon, it sounds like $1 million. I had to listen to the Phil Collins Tarzan soundtrack recently because Kaylin's been telling me that, like, Phil Collins went so hard on that. You don't understand. He went hard, and he didn't have to go that hard, but he went there for us, okay? He did that for us, and you need to appreciate that. So I just told her I've never watched Tarzan. It's just something that I never watched it, but I had to listen to the soundtrack, and I have to say, Phil Collins, he went real hard on that, and he didn't have to, but he did. And he did that for us. So, check that. Kaylin and I both accidentally found out that we both like Colter Wall, and we didn't realize that we were both listening to him. She's been listening to his record from 2020, and I've been listening to his record from 2015, and we had no idea that we both secretly liked the same artist, so that was pretty fun. Jason Isbell's got a new record out. It is solo acoustic. It's just guitar and vocal. It is wonderful. It almost sounds like it was recorded with one microphone, and it is the whole album. It's not just the intro, it's the whole record. It's just him and a guitar, and it sounds like it's a post-divorce record. The lyrics definitely back that theory up. Key tracks that I wrote down from listening to that: Eileen, Gravelweed, and Good While It Lasted. Oh, just fantastic songs and really solid songwriting. One-liners that'll break your heart. Wonderful melodies that they become earworms. And he says in that song, Good While It Lasted, what does he say? Well, I had all that I needed when I had all that I wanted, and it was good while it lasted. Something along those lines. Read the lyrics, get into it. It's serious. An artist that I worked with years ago, Isaiah Jorgensen, we found ourselves with an extra ticket to the show that we're going to tomorrow, and he is coming along. And he asked if I would listen to the new Coheed record, The Father of Make Believe, which I did. And he was right. It is so good. I was very impressed with that. I had some suggestions from Benno come up. Nathaniel Rateliff in the Night Sweats, song called Survivor. He dedicated that one to Jake in the band group chat. Great dancer. Just wonderful song. He brought up the Robin Hood Hills, It's Not Important, which was on our No Deposit, No Return EP. And it's probably the cleanest, clearest recording that the Robin Hood Hills ever did. And if you like pop punk, you owe it to yourself to listen to that EP. He, in particular, thought the song It's Not Important was worthwhile this week. But also, there's a record by a band called Lemuria, which the Richards played a show with them. We all opened for Off With Their Heads back when they were still living at the Alamo House in Minneapolis. And their record, Get Better, was like a mainstay, like weekly listening when we lived in Montana, in Big Sky. And for some reason the song Lengths Away jumped out at Benno this last couple weeks too. So there's your suggestions from Benno that came up. Sleep Token's got a new single out and a new record coming out in May. I listened to the new single and it is vast. It is deep. There is so much variety there. I just couldn't. Listening to it feels like watching a movie. It's crazy. And we did lockdown tickets. We're going to Sleep Token October 1st, Target Center. That was a pretty penny, but it's going to be really cool. It's the week of my birthday. I am so jacked. I had to listen to the Grease soundtrack this week because there was a big argument going on. I'm taking my wife to see Grease dinner theater at the Chanhassen Dinner Theater next month. And she's jacked. She loves Grease. We've had this gift certificate for a long time, and we've been waiting for an opportunity to go to a show that she wants to see. And God, it's just got to be Grease. And that's another one of those things where people love it. People really, really love Grease, and I just cannot stand it. I just think that it's so obnoxious. And I don't know what it is. It's the shibby shibby doo ba ba doo ba. Yeah, no. an hour and a half, 2 hours. The greasers, all of it, I can't. I don't. It doesn't work for me. I won't do it. But we had a debate going on with some people, and so I had to put the soundtrack on. And one person agreed with me that if they never heard it again, it would be too soon, and everybody else was singing along. So I'm like, I guess it's just I don't get it. I'm not cool. I don't know. But I did spin the Grease soundtrack. I listened to some Joy Division and some New Order after all of the No Devotion I was listening to. You kind of have to go back to where I'm pretty sure it all started, with Joy Division. And then, as a result, New Order from there, which I've listened to Joy Division a lot more than I've listened to New Order, but I at least made it through their top 5 tracks. And I gotta say, there's just as much to dig into there as there is in the Joy Division catalog, too. I ended this last 2 weeks by doing a little dive on each one of the bands that's going to be at the show that we're going to. So Immure is the first band that's playing tomorrow. They're an American metalcore, deathcore band that was formed in 2003 in Fairfield, Connecticut. They're known for their aggressive down-tuned guitars, new metal influences. Their frontman, Frankie Palmery, has very confrontational lyrics. They carved out a niche for themselves with brutal breakdowns and rap-influenced vocal delivery. Their sound is heavily influenced by bands like Korn, Slipknot, and the Acacia Strain. I'm not sure. But they told me to start with the record Speaker of the Dead. I can tell you, it throws down like East Coast hardcore. There's a couple of elements that sound like the riffs are a little Korn, a little bit Limp Bizkit-y. There's a few spots where he does some kind of Linkin Park style rapping or talking, kind of sort of whatever, but for the most part, it's like, hey, listen here, bud, I'm gonna punch you in the face because you said something wrong. Let's go. And it's just like, and it's sludgy. It's really sludgy. It's much heavier and much sludgier than anything that they ever called nu metal. Believe that. The Callous Dowboys, chaotic mathcore from Atlanta, Georgia, known for their wild genre blending styles that mix elements of metalcore, jazz, post-hardcore, and even some theatrical elements. They take inspiration from bands like the Dillinger Escape Plan, Chariot, and Every Time I Die, with a unique experimental twist that is very unpredictable and engaging. They told me to start with the record from 2019 called Die on Mars. I got halfway through it. It's entertaining as hell. I thought Blood Brothers, that was kind of my thing. Like, yes, all of those influences for sure. I thought Ongoing Concept, and I thought Blood Brothers. And I'm very excited. I didn't listen to anything from Hawthorne Heights, and I have no idea why they're there. But what I found out was that they used to tour together back in the day. So that's basically why they're there. They were trying to say, like, yeah, there's some fan overlaps. It kind of balances the live show out because Immure's going to be real throwdown, Callous Cowboys is going to be real crazy, and then Hawthorne Heights will be a little bit mellow, and then Cheetos is going to be wild, right? But the thing that stood out to me was they used to tour together, and they were warped into the same Warped Tour post-hardcore scene. They were both like MySpace era, and they toured together. So I'm like, okay, that's why they're there, because I really couldn't figure out why Hawthorne Heights is there. The boys are excited because Nikki FM. Kaylin's excited because she liked them when she was coming up. That was the band that got her into emo. I could care less. Honestly, it was too late for me when Hawthorne Heights showed up. I thought that they were kind of like a bandwagoners. But respectfully, they're still after it. I heard that the singer married the girl Nikki, and they got a kid, and like the kids come on stage and stuff. So I mean, that's just wholesome. I just love that. That's great. So I can't talk crap about Hawthorne Heights, but what this tour is for, what this show is for that we're going to tomorrow is Cheetos 20th anniversary All's Well That Ends Well tour, right? And so I listened to this record about 6 months ago, and I just listened to it on headphones while I was doing dishes. I thought it was great. Kaylin tells me this cousin of hers that committed suicide a couple years ago got her into this record when she was growing up, in teenage years. She loved it a lot. She loved him very much, and his passing was really hard. And the fact that it's Hawthorne Heights for the boys, it's Chiados, it's that record, it's going to give her a little sense of healing. And it's going to be a lot of fun because that record is nuts. It's like theatrical metalcore with some kind of psychotic Blood Brothers type elements to it. It's just great. If you wanted to listen to one song that explains it for me as to why I'm excited, there's a key song. The words "best friend" become redefined. You listen to that track, you'll be clued in as much as anybody can be. So, on that note, I'm going to ask you to smash the like button. I'm going to ask you to hit subscribe. I'm going to ask you to hit the notification bell. I'm going to ask you to drop a comment. I'm going to say thanks for listening. I'm going to say wish us luck tomorrow, taking 2 very small boys to a very crazy concert. I think they're going to have a great time. And I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about something a little bit more low-key, but something very, very special to me. The Bright Eyes album. Digital ash in a digital urn. Definitely recommended listening between now and 2 weeks from now. With that, thanks for listening. Have a good night.